John, you are at the heart of seeing what's happening with the airline industry. Give us a perspective in terms of, A, how bad is it right now for airlines around the world? And are you optimistic in terms of what you're seeing as far as an modest uptick in demand?
Sure, Phil. Well, I would liken the industry to someone going into the hospital emergency ward, having emergency surgery, and now moving to a critical care recovery phase. Look, about 26,000 jets comprise the Western fleet today. And of that, about 60% are grounded, 62% are grounded today. But having said that, I think the airlines now are very much focusing on their liquidity, cash management, but now all eyes are on recovery. We've seen announcements over the past couple of weeks, for sure. Flights are increasing. Passenger load factors are starting to creep back up globally. And so now it's all about the recovery and how fast, how to induce passengers to get back on aircraft, to make them feel more comfortable. So that's the entire focus of the industry right now.
John, with about 2/3 of the world's commercial airplanes parked right now, how long until you start to see some of those come back? Or is there a chance that, look, some of these older ones, they're gone. The airlines are simply not going to bring them back?
Yeah. Well, a couple of comments there. It's hard to speculate, and we're not speculating how long. However, to your point, there's about 3,500, 3,600 of those units, which are about 20 years of age or older. And so it's fair to say that probably most of those aircraft will not come back. And so what we're seeing on a global scale is, on a much larger scale, what we've seen before, and that the airlines are going to focus on operating their youngest, most fuel-efficient fleets. You've already seen major airlines, Lufthansa, American, Delta, announce major retirements of older aircraft, 757s, 767s, the older 747s, a lot of wide bodies, the old 380s. That's taking massive capacity out of the marketplace. So from our perspective, the good news, if you will, a couple of things. Number one, airlines are under huge financial stress, and in times of financial stress, they very much turn to leasing aircraft, so they don't have to finance it themselves, and we can provide those aircraft for them. Number two, huge environmental pressures continue, and that means that the airlines are going to continue to focus on getting the youngest, most fuel-efficient, technologically advanced aircraft. In fact, some of the bailouts that the governments are giving in Europe, Air France being an example, are dependent upon Air France refleeting and continue to modernize its fleet. So from our order book perspective, we've got almost 400 airplanes on future order of the most modern technology aircraft. That bodes well for us, that plus the shift towards leasing. So it's hard to say how long, but for us, we do see those green shoots, both in our forward business outlook and in the airlines coming back to service, particularly in Asia, where now we're seeing 65% of the flights returning domestically into China, Korea, and elsewhere.
John, one of the things that you're hearing about, and you and I have talked about this in the past, you have people like Representative Peter DeFazio saying, look, the middle seat should be blocked on these planes. Other people are saying, hey, commercial airlines, they should just strip out that middle seat completely. A, is that even feasible to block out that middle seat over a long-term business plan for the airlines? And B, physically, could they strip out the middle seat even if they wanted to?
The short answer is no. It's not economically feasible long-term. I understand the kind of human reaction for sitting so close together. And the second thing is it would be almost impossible to strip out the middle seat. Those seats are called triplets and triples. And so they're actually built as a 3-seat unit. So you would have to reseat the entire fleet. So economically, over the long term, it just doesn't make sense to block out those middle seats. Now, as an interim measure, yes, I think you'll see airlines attempting to block those middle seats. Other airlines like Delta saying that it's going to add more flights when 60% of the load factor is reached. That's still not enough. The industry needs about 77% load factor to break even. So long term, it's not sustainable. Short term, I do think you're going to see these measures until passengers start returning and/or we see more confidence in a vaccine that will prevent this virus from happening.
Hey, John, a lot of aviation geeks are curious as to the thought process that goes into exiting an entire fleet like Delta did with the 777. Can you explain to viewers how they decide that that's the one that needs to go?
Well, it's a lot of what I've been saying. Most of those are older 777-200 models. which are, well beyond 10, 15 years of age. They're not the state-of-the-art 777X. They're not the 787. They're not as fuel efficient. As aircraft age, they have higher maintenance costs. And so you look at the totality of the fleet and say to yourself, does it make sense to continue operating that aircraft type at this time? And so if you look at the long-term economics, it's not surprising that, in fact, Delta would ground those older 777-200s.
Hey, John, about a week ago, Dave Calhoun, CEO of Boeing, was on the Today Show, and he said, look, he could see, when asked this question, he could see one of the U.S. airlines going out of business. What's your sense of, A, is that likely? And B, is it also a possibility that we could see some consolidation, perhaps more mergers within the U.S. of certain airlines?
Look, it's really hard to speculate. I'm not going to speculate on any of the major carriers. I'm not completely sure about that. I'm sure that's David's feeling, but globally, for sure, we will see some more airline bankruptcies. Fortunately for Air Lease Corporation, we've avoided the last couple of large ones, including Virgin Australia and Avianca. But certainly globally, we'll probably see some more airline insolvencies, as well as mergers and consolidations, absolutely for sure.